If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa. We are taking ownership of our narrative, leading the conversation, enlightening our listener. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
There are 1.8 billion globally. That will make 75% workforce by 2025. That will outspace earnings of baby boomers in less than 10 years. Smartphones and tablets are the argument settlers and fact checkers of every conversation. Get more insights on African Millennials on Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa. Bada Akintunde-Johnson is the country manager for Viacom International Media Networks Africa, overseeing entertainment brands such as MTV, MTV Base, Nickelodeon, BET, and Comedy Central in Nigeria. Before his current role, he worked in advertising as creative director for Globacom, running some of the most talked about and most awarded campaigns of the last decade in Nigeria for the telecommunications giant. Over the years, he has also worked in the advertising and media space, creating successful advertising campaigns for brands such as Guinness, Stanbic IBTC Bank, Haplaga Beer, Malta Guinness, FCMB, Skybank, Adidas, ExxonMobil, Lagos City Marathon, Indomie, and many other top brands for advertising agencies such as TBWA Concepts, Center Spread FCB, and SO&U. He was also the creative director of ITV, Nigeria's biggest indigenous pay TV platform, for some time. Bada is also a popular media personality who has worked extensively as a presenter and producer of radio and television sports content. He is a respected soccer pundit who regularly features on the live broadcast of football competitions such as the UEFA Champions League, the English Premier League, and the FIFA World Cup. Bada also co-owned a record label and a talent management company, Peaceville Entertainment, which managed, among many others, Vector the Viper, Dija, Crayon, and Protec. He is passionate about touching lives positively and changing the mindsets that have held Africa back over the years. He is a graduate of Communication and Language Arts from the University of Ibadan, holds a postgraduate diploma in Professional Marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, London, and is currently studying for an MBA at the Berlin School of Creative Leadership. Africa, meet Bada Akintunde-Johnson on The African Millennial with Tomi Wale.
They are 1.8 billion globally. They will make 75% of workforce by 2025. They will outspace earnings of baby boomers in less than 10 years. Smartphones and tablets are the argument settlers and fact checkers for every conversation. Get more insights on African Millennials on Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
All right, good afternoon. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon in the city of Lagos. I think this is 2 o'clock here from here. How are my people in Ghana, Senegal, UK? How are my people? How's Dirty December happening? Okay. That's just for the millennials, not for us. All right, I have a very interesting person in the studio this afternoon. Introduction, Tomi Wale. I'm the host for the African Millennial radio show on Africa Business Radio. Welcome, everybody. I have Bada Akintunde-Johnson. He's the country manager for Viacom. We all know what Viacom is. They have MTV Base, BET, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central. Am I missing any other one, Bada?
No.
Okay. Have all of that. And we have him in here. I've known Bada for a year now, and every time we've met, every time we had a conversation, it's always been interesting. I think the first time we met was at a business day Millennial Hangouts. Yeah, and then I was a speaker also, and then I saw this guy on the poster with the hat. I was like, okay, I look forward to meeting him. And it was such an interesting evening, and since then it's been interesting friendship, conversation, banters, back and forth. So straight to it, Bada is going to be talking about so many things this afternoon. I mean, if you sit down with Bada on a normal day, you're going to have a ball. You're going to talk about so many things, from culture to work to examples to politics to creativity, football. I'm sorry, Bada is football. Bada is an Arsenal fanatic. He's one of the Arsenal fanatics I've seen in the world, and a very, very huge supporter of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So you can have all of that, when you sit down with Bada. So I'm just going to be going straight into the conversation, right? Bada, your Twitter handle is what again?
It's at Bada Akintunde-J.
Okay, Bada Akintunde-J. So if you really want to get more about Bada, you should go on Twitter, Bada Akintunde-J, because we don't have so much. We're not going to be here for 2 days. All right. But I'm a millennial, right? And I've faced so many things. Our previous speaker talked about the things that millennials should be doing right now. They should be at the forefront of things, forefront of matters in politics, in business decision, because we are the ones who would be in charge of the future. We're in charge of things right now in a way, but then we'll really be in charge of the future. So we can't just sit back and allow people keep doing things and then give us some trouble in the future. Mm-hmm. Now, I just want to take things back a bit. The early 2000s, or maybe the mid 2000s, we had the introduction of the mobile phones, right? And then people we stopped watching TV, and then we're just always on our phones. So they'd be like, you're always on your phone, you're not doing anything, da 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 da. So that was happening in different homes, and the aggregates formed a change in the society.
Absolutely.
That the older people didn't expect to come. So, based on your experience with everything you are, as we said earlier, football, it could be culture, everything. How have you, with your work, been able to manage the differences with the older generation and this millennial generation? Let's even start from there before we now start going up the hill.
Oh, well, the differences are quite remarkable, both positive and negative. Okay. But I'll, for the purpose of this conversation, focus on the positives. All
right.
I think that the oldest millennials are knocking on the doors of 40 now, in their late 30s, all the way down to guys who were born in the 90s. So what are the differences that you would observe? People who were born much earlier had things a bit, differently, away from the advent of, digital technology or mobile technology, as you call it. The differences are also noticeable, across just basic, should I say, perspective or outlook to life. Basically, for the older millennials, there's a little bit of the old that they're exposed to. Like, I am one of those.
So like a hybrid of
exactly.
Both, yeah.
So you have the opportunity of experiencing both worlds.
Okay.
We didn't get to use the internet until we were teenagers, or maybe even early 20s. But so we had our initial years very steeped in the world of the older people, and then there's this exposure since that time to the world of the younger millennials that we kind of have. If you ask an employer of labor, and I speak to quite a number of my friends, they would say they prefer the older millennials because they've experienced sort of both worlds, if you may.
Yeah.
So they are more rounded. They are more, call it, in tune with reality. They're more empathetic. Maybe is that the word? In being able to appreciate what the older people are about and not get totally irritated or frustrated by.
Just put the word entitled somewhere there.
By their actions, I wouldn't say that millennials are entitled people. I just feel like maybe there's a lot that they don't understand, from the standpoint of other people, which could make them come across as being entitled, but it's not a sense of entitlement, if you ask me.
Oh, wow.
In the West, for instance, there's a thinking that millennials feel hard done by because the older generation had things easier. But if you back up a little, earlier, older generations will tell you that it was the same perception that was held of them. The new generation is always going to think that they're having things tougher than the generation before them. Whether it's real or imagined, it's always the perception.
So we're good.
Yeah, so it's nothing new. It's always happened. But if you consider what the facts of the matter are, the guys who were born earlier, went to government sponsored schools, education was cheaper. By the time the millennials arrived, the landscape had changed. So you had fewer people going to free schools back then. With millennials, you have more people going to, more expensive schools. They would argue, the older guys would argue that the quality of education dipped. Whether that's true or not, we'll never know. Because what has happened, especially with the advent of the internet, particularly, is what I would call the democratization of information, which means that, now a human being doesn't exactly have to be in the four walls of a learning environment to learn, because the internet has now put information at your fingertips, and that's, from an employer standpoint, that's the benefit that you get. You have people who sort of have a more rounded, more wider, appreciation of the world around them because of access. The content that you consume on your mobile now is probably on a daily basis, probably what you would consume over a year watching TV.
Or have to walk to a library somewhere to go. So you can see what you've said. There are qualities of both worlds.
Absolutely.
But then you've been able, or what you tell them, or just be able to manage both sides.
Absolutely.
Some people think the millennials are not as educated enough, but then if you look at it from another angle, they have more information. So if you can have both of them in anything you're trying to work on, it just works better.
Absolutely.
Some understand the times, some are trying to redefine the times, and that just means that you're positioning yourself for.
So the fact that you have access to information does impact on your worldview a little bit, because the access to information is also access to people. Your network is not defined by your physical environment. You find how people connect these days in the music world, for instance. You find how easy it is for some guy who's in some place in Africa sharing material with another person. The other day, I think it was on Erlin's show, I think yesterday. I saw she posted a video of the Dreamcatchers dancers. In Ikorodu.
Wow, it went up.
Yeah, it went up. She posted it, So
I saw it on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, so you see kids dancing in Ikorodu, connecting with a superstar.
That's something really huge that we millennials can do.
Exactly. So I
like that.
Before us, it was important. It would have taken ages. It probably would never have happened. So
So on this entertainment thing, right? I want to ask you a question. Since you are huge on it, it's your work. Okay. So there's a fast-growing thing with African content, right? It's growing really wide and everything, and millennials have influenced the global positioning of that.
Absolutely.
Right? Can you go all out on how you think millennials have influenced this development so far?
So let's start off from what we know. Wizkid, Davido, These are some of the more popular African names around the world, probably more popular than most heads of states in Africa.
Very possible.
Fact, yeah. So it's commonplace these days now that on social media you see international superstars. The other day was Rihanna, who was dancing to Burna Boy's Ye in her car, telling the driver to put some African volume on it.
No, wow.
Yeah. And she probably has never met Burna before. Even Beyonce on the Lion King's project, she's never met Burna, but she's got Burna's record on her album. That's what possibilities millennials now enjoy. Wizkid's music has traveled just for the fact that the internet exists. People are able to share very, very easily. The other day I was in class in Berlin, and in the first 2 days I'd shared over 500 Nigerian music content with people from Europe and America, and it's almost like the first thing that people connect to, the first element of culture from elsewhere that people want to connect to very quickly is music. And that's why these guys are so powerful, and they're so commercially viable. Unlike a movie that you'll require maybe an hour plus to watch, music is something you can consume very, very quickly, and you don't even have to consume all of it. So you find that these guys keep getting to areas of the world where prior to the internet age it would have been almost impossible to get to. In 2014 I was in Brazil, and the lady at the front desk of the hotel I was staying was playing an Asha song.
Oh, wow.
And she had no idea where Asha was from.
She just liked
the sound.
I'm sure there are a lot of people listening to this right now, and then they cannot, as Bada is saying all these things.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've never come to Nigeria before. They may never come to Nigeria, but they've interacted with a piece of our culture through music.
That's what we millennials can do.
Absolutely.
Can you tell your dad at home, and dad, hello dad, mom? That's what we millennials can do.
Yeah, I can reach the farthest parts of the world without having to leave the comfort of my home.
Please listen to us a lot.
Producers these days, I mean, I get sent a lot of material from Europe and America. People who are looking for producers who can infuse some Africanness into the sound. People are making movies in other parts of the world. They're looking for African scores, and they don't have to travel.
And then you know what, Bada, you're doing everybody both in the studio, and I'm sure there's someone somewhere in Senegal right now enjoying this content, and it's like, it's a lot, right? Let's go on a break. Give me some 30 seconds and I'll be back. I need to take this all in, Bada. You're really dishing it out. All right, let's have a break, guys.
Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
There are 1.8 billion globally. That will make 75% workforce by 2025. That will outspace earnings of baby boomers in less than 10 years. Smartphones and tablets are the argument settlers and fact checkers of every conversation. Get more insights on African Millennials on Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
All right, welcome back. Whew. Bada Akintunde-Johnson is in the studio. This place is really... I mean, do you have notes at home? Are you taking notes of things? Right? I hear things about millennials not being this. Millennials, we're laid back. We just sit in the cafe all day, drink coffee, feel like we're working. But we are the ones really defining what the world is getting into right now. And African millennials especially are doing a lot of interesting things about that. So I want to ask your thoughts on this. So I'm working on something, right? There's always going to be negotiation. I have to bring my game to negotiation table. Now, because of the creative energy millennials have, there's usually just a business-minded deficit somewhere there, right? So a millennial goes into a place, just gives them everything, or with what's happening globally now, millennial just goes and then just think we can do this, and we're selling ourselves short. So the other people don't have to come in a boat and everything with a mirror and a tea to get our content. You know, they can just get your content from yourself, even if it's just an email away. So what would you give, or what business tips would you give to millennials, African millennials especially, to have when it comes to negotiating everything we have with the global world?
So first off, I think that the reason why people are more often than not in a position where they, as you say, sell themselves short is because they're very eager to share, you know, what they've got with the rest of the world. The first thought that crosses their mind is it shareable? Is it something that people on a large scale would like to have? And when they're having those conversations, that's top of mind, and they're really not thinking about the commercial bit of it. The commercial side of things is not something that you master in one day. You only just have to be very cognizant of it. That every conversation that you're having that has the potential of generating income for whoever you're having it with should be one that makes you consider how much of that pie you are getting as you're having that conversation. Any conversation that can result in revenue for whoever it is that you are speaking to should mean that you think about how much of that revenue is coming to you and you discuss it frontally. Straight away. So whilst you're discussing, you know, access, because people will come at you with things like, oh, I'm going to provide you a platform where we will share your stuff and whatnot. So what you ask the person, or the question you ask yourself, is if it was all about, you know, giving me access, and there was nothing in it for the person. Is the person, you know, the modern day Father Christmas or what? Why is the person so interested in? Why is he's interested in that conversation? More often than not, what you find is that there's also always a commercial, you know, reward, or there's some financial, you know, gratification that the person seeks to derive, but they play it down, and you know, they dangle a carrot in front of you. More often than not, what they're telling you is, oh, we're going to expose you to a diverse audience. We'll give you exposure. Behind every exposure conversation you're having, there's a commercial undertone.
Sorry. On exposure, let me share a quick joke. On exposure, a photographer said, no, I don't want exposure. I increase my ISO.
At the end of the day, exposure is not going to pay your rent. You've got bills to pay.
You're going to have an empty fridge.
You can't scale up your craft or whatever it is that you're offering if you don't have money. So, however little the money is, you've got to put that conversation front burner. You've got to be negotiating and hard to. What's the worst that can happen? That's one question you can ask yourself. Is the person going to walk away simply because you're asking to, you know, be paid something for your effort? More often than not, that's not going to happen. They may, you know, negotiate down, but negotiation or broaching a negotiation conversation is never a deal breaker. If it's a deal breaker, then the deal was never worth it. If it was worth it, the person would negotiate. So as one of my best quotes says, people never give you what you deserve. They give you what you negotiate. It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. Guys, it's as simple as that. I understand that you have the best juice in the world. You can shake things everywhere. If you don't negotiate, your fridge will be very empty. Do you understand what I'm saying? Apart from your fridge being empty, I mean, we don't want to come by representing Africa in that way. You should negotiate because we have value right now. Black Panther, I think, sold off conversations of African millennials globally.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a black superhero and then everybody, you know, jumped on it, and everything right now is Africa. I'm happy. Even the Oscars has Lionheart.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get on.
Africa is the next frontier. I mean, the entire album, the entire Lion King album
was,
you know, it was done for Africa, because the African sound is what the world is moving on to, so it's a global movement. Everyone is identifying with it. It's the new cool. So all of that can be happening without money exchanging hands, and we can't be holding the short end of the stick. If we're delivering the value, bringing the value to the table, we might as well be taking a big chunk of that commercial part of the conversation. We might be taking a lion's share of it.
Guys, thank you very much for being a part of this show. I mean, I wish we could go on for 2 hours, but 30 minutes is beautiful. But I would like to come back sometime.
Oh, most definitely, anytime.
Okay. Maybe we would have Bada in-house again, right? My producer, Tokwe Samuel, what do you think? He should come back here. Innocent, he should come back, right? Let's have Bada again. But right now, we have to go. We have a beautiful minded person coming on the next episode also. But for now, Bada has given us tips on business. He has emphasized the potential and the value of African millennials, right? Everybody who has ever thought that millennials are the lazy ones, I think they might have a change of mind right now, because we're even the ones defining a lot of the global things going on. The African Millennial Report also, don't forget to go on getupinc.com to take the survey, because we're going to have many things like this in the reports coming out next year. I think I have to get out and have a private conversation with Bada. Don't be jealous. It's Tomi Wale again. Yeah, have a very beautiful afternoon. Bye.
There are 1.8 billion globally. That will make 75% workforce by 2025. That will outspace earnings of baby boomers in less than 10 years. Smartphones and tablets are the argument settlers and fact checkers of every conversation. Get more insights on African Millennials on Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available as podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board the flight that takes you from stricken to straightened. We are seconds from takeoff. We ask that you please fasten your earpiece into your eardrum and please log on to africabusinessradio.com to avoid being distracted. Thank you for choosing Africa Business Radio. Enjoy this cerebral journey.
Doing business in Africa can be complicated. Politicians sometimes create circumstances that hurt businesses and consumers, and then they hide behind a wall of to avoid taking responsibility for their bad economic policies. On Red Tape Africa, we slice through the jargon, drawing a direct link between government actions and their effects on businesses across the continent. Red Tape Africa is where we break down the jargons of business and economic policies in plain English so that you can understand how the impacts on your business and on you. Join us every Tuesday and Thursday on Africa Business Radio as we deliver an impartial verdict on these policies. Red Tape Africa, economic policy impact in plain English. With Red Tape Africa. Follow us on all social media at Red Tape Africa and tweet at us using the hashtag Red Tape Africa. Red Tape Africa, economic policy impact in plain English. You are listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insight on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available as podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.